It started so innocently. My daughter came home with a smile brighter than the sun, waving a school assignment about ancestry and family heritage. She wanted the project to be special, so I suggested we all take those popular DNA kits together. My wife agreed, a little hesitant but still smiling for our daughter's sake. I thought nothing of it. We ordered the kits, spit in the tubes, sealed them, and mailed them off. I remember joking about how we'd find out whether I secretly had Viking blood or if my wife was right about being 10% Ghanaian. None of us expected anything life-changing. At least, I didn't. A few weeks later, I got the email alert, our ancestry results were ready. I opened mine first, just out of curiosity. When I checked the DNA Relatives tab, my daughter didn't appear under my matches. I refreshed the page twice thinking something had glitched. I then opened my wife's results. My daughter matched her perfectly. But me? Nothing. Zero shared DNA. Not even the tiniest overlap you'd expect from a distant relative. My stomach twisted into a knot I couldn't name. My first reaction was denial, absolute, stubborn denial. These companies weren't perfect, right? System errors happened. Databases got mixed up. Maybe our samples got switched during processing. I emailed customer service. I waited. I paced around the house pretending everything was normal. My wife kept asking why I was suddenly restless, and I kept lying, work stress, traffic, tired. But inside, fear was growing like a tumor. I decided to run a second test. Not through the family account this time. Privately. Quietly. Without my wife knowing. I bought the kit in cash, used a different email, and sent the samples without telling a soul. Waiting for the results felt like holding my breath for weeks. When the email finally came in, I didn't even sit down. I opened it right there in the hallway, heart pounding like a drum. The verdict was the same, zero shared DNA. I sat in my car for nearly 2 hours after seeing those results. I couldn't drive. Couldn't talk. Couldn't breathe properly. My entire world felt rearranged without my consent. The simple anchor I relied on, that I was her father, was suddenly gone. But what hurt most was the confusion. Because I still loved her. Every memory, every bedtime story, every scraped knee, all of it was still real. And yet reality had shifted. That evening, I finally confronted my wife. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just placed the printed results on the table and asked her to explain. For a moment, she stared as if she didn't understand English. Then her face crumbled. Literally crumbled. She covered her face with both hands and started crying, messy, shaking sobs that filled the room. And then she whispered, "I'm so sorry." She admitted it. She said years ago, during what she called a rough patch, she had a one-night stand with a coworker during a work retreat. She claimed she was drunk, that it meant nothing, that she was confused, that she hated herself for it. She swore she thought our daughter was mine. She said she never questioned it. But as she talked, every word felt like a knife to the ribs. I didn't feel anger at first. Just emptiness. The betrayal didn't hit all at once. It was like sinking slowly in cold water. I kept having flashbacks, our wedding vows, the ultrasound appointments, the first time I held my daughter. All of it suddenly tainted by a secret I didn't know existed. What hurt most was realizing she had made decisions about my life without giving me a choice. She had rewritten my story, and I had been living inside her lie. I asked about the coworker. She told me his name. I recognized it. He used to comment on her posts a lot, harmless jokes, emojis. I never thought anything of it. She said he never knew about the pregnancy, never suspected anything. My hands were shaking. I realized I had been raising another man's child for almost a decade, and the man probably had no idea. The unfairness of it made my chest burn. That night, I slept in the guest room. Or tried to. My mind wouldn't let me rest. Every sound in the house reminded me of my daughter, the little human who trusted me more than anyone. But I also couldn't bear to look at my wife. The person I had loved for years suddenly felt like a stranger who had stolen something from me that I could never get back. The next morning, my wife was on the couch with puffy eyes, clutching a mug of cold coffee. She begged me not to leave. Begged me to think about our daughter. Begged me to go to therapy with her. All I heard was noise. Words. Excuses. The damage was already done. And I was too broken to pretend otherwise. I didn't tell my daughter anything, of course. She was too young, too innocent. But she noticed something was wrong. Kids always do. She kept asking, "Daddy, why are you sad?" which only made it worse. I hugged her tighter every time she asked. Because even if biology said otherwise, my heart still recognized her as mine. A few weeks later, I packed my bags. We agreed on a temporary separation. My wife cried again. I didn't. I felt numb. Like I had used up every emotion and had none left. Moving into a small apartment felt like the final blow. No family photos. No little footsteps. No giggles. Just silence. We decided I would still be in my daughter's life. I refused to punish her for her mother's choices. She didn't choose any of this. She didn't ask to be born into this mess. But every pickup and drop-off felt like tearing off a fresh scab. Seeing my wife standing in the doorway made me feel sick and nostalgic at the same time. I eventually went to therapy. Not for my wife, for myself. I needed to understand how to move forward without drowning in bitterness. The therapist told me something that stuck: genetics make a child.
Love makes a parent. It didn't erase the pain. But it gave me permission to keep loving my daughter without guilt. Anger didn't hit me until months later. Suddenly everything made me furious: old photos, inside jokes, the memory of her telling me, "You'd be a great dad someday." She knew. She knew what she was risking, and she did it anyway. Anger was easier to feel than heartbreak. But it scared me too. One day, my wife told him. The coworker. She said he deserved to know. He reached out to me, awkward, apologetic, shocked. He said he never would have slept with her if he'd known she was married. I hated him for existing. But I also couldn't blame him for a truth he didn't know. The day I signed the divorce papers, I felt both relief and grief. Like I was burying a version of myself I would never get back. The lawyer asked if I was sure. I said yes, even though a part of me screamed no. My wife cried silently the whole time. I didn't look at her. Despite everything, I kept showing up for my daughter. School events, birthdays, hospital visits when she got the flu. She would run into my arms, trusting me completely, unaware of the chaos swirling around her existence. And every time she called me Daddy, it healed something and broke something at the same time. Now here I am, writing this confession because the weight of silence is too heavy. People say DNA defines parenthood. Maybe scientifically. But emotionally? Spiritually? In the day-to-day moments that matter? She is still my daughter. No test can erase the years I spent raising her, loving her, protecting her. My marriage is over, but my bond with her isn't. I don't know what the future looks like, but one thing remains true. I still love that little girl more than anything, even if science says she's not mine.